Man, his business has absolutely blown up because he does the right thing. He works really hard. He takes care of his people. Flying in from Utah and Brady Insurance Marketing. Please welcome Mr. Ty Brady.
My mentor used to tell me, Ty, there's two things, there's maybe one or two or three opportunities in your life where you can serve and make a lot of money. That's all you got. One or two times, maybe three, where you can serve and make a lot of money. I have an agency that I've got 2,500 agents, direct agents. My mentor about 6,000 to 8,000 every single year, and I have I have 150 that make over six figures. I have 20 that make multiple six figures, and then I have two agency owners that make over seven figures. It's a tremendous, tremendous industry. And it doesn't have to be Medicare. It could be life insurance. It could be the debt guy, right? But make a commitment to do it.
Last thing I just want to point out is I think it's a good idea at this point in anybody's career to think about diversifying your streams of income. You know, instead of just having all of your revenue come from one line of business, diversifying a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, do you have any thoughts about that?
No, I think that's the way. You know, I think the last 5 years, the game or the landscape has changed. And, you know, I was all in, you know, let's say Medicare health products. Mm-hmm. I didn't dabble in annuities. I didn't dabble in life insurance. And it's nice to have everything all in one place.
Yes.
And collectively, you know, it's very smart.
Yep, I completely agree. One last thing I just thought it would be wise to point out is that if there's agents out there that are interested in recruiting other agents or becoming agency owners,
yes,
that there are override contracts available for health insurance.
Yes,
I think that's an important point. You know, just again, that's a diversification. If you're an agency owner already, it's just want you to know there's override available for health insurance. So it would be good to diversify. Last thing, just a thought, is that if you are aware or have heard about the new CMS potential ruling regarding overrides for agency owners, it does not affect the overrides for health insurance ACA overrides. I just thought that would be a point to point out.
You're talking Medicare, the Medicare legislation.
Excuse me, yes.
Yeah, so
yes.
Medicare is going to be as it is. I don't think it's going to change, but there's a lot of talk about that right now. So good point to bring up. But your override is not affected. ACA under 65, their contracts are still intact and still be available. Something that I've thought about, I was talking to my wife, is that, you know, how our kids even be able to afford a house. Yeah. I mean, or even have an opportunity to build a house. If we've got all these subdivisions owned by big corporate companies, how do they break in?
So at the economic forecast breakfast, they said we may need to build a war chest for our kids. And that's
meaning you.
Yeah. Or you, anybody. With the appreciation going up faster than incomes.
Yeah.
Right. Like, you should definitely have some rentals that your kids may need to live in someday. Or that you could sell to help them buy.
Get into something.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely have a war chest for them. Especially with millennials now, we're trying to tell them that, you know, home ownership is the way to go. You're going to pay to live anyways.
Sure.
And when you own it, every time you make a payment, it's like putting money in the bank, right? Mm-hmm. You're paying down your principal, and then you have appreciation. So,
and you have control.
Yeah.
You want to paint it. You want to rip out the yard,
going back to that freedom line, right?
Yeah.
Like, you want to paint the house and you're renting, you can't. You want to get a dog and you're renting, probably can't. Like, definitely have the control. And if you don't want to stay in Utah forever, fine. Turn it into a rental if the market's bad, or sell it if it's good.
Yeah. What is driving people to buy a house today? Is it move-ins? Is it downsizing? What's driving them?
Well, we talked about that a little bit on my podcast. We talked about the silver wave.
Yes.
Right. So it's all ends of that spectrum. There's a lot of younger people that don't own yet, and there's a lot of old people that are downsizing.
They're getting rid of their house that they've had their kids in.
Yeah, and so we are up over last year at this time with inventory, available houses to buy, and yet we're still low. That's why we're still in a 2-month market. So, don't wait to buy real estate. Buy real estate and wait.
I'm in the insurance business helping people that are baby boomers, and and then you're in selling them houses, and I've seen it where it seems that they're a little bit more transient. They're either going to where their kids are because they want to be close to grandkids, or they're going to back home, or they are literally just wanting to downsize and get something smaller, maybe a house they could pay cash for. So they're selling their bigger house, pay cash so that they can legitimately live on Social Security. And the same thing, I've had people come to me that are on Social Security like, Ty, I want to get in this industry because I need extra income to go golfing. Or it's not enough. With inflation going the way it is, they've got to do something.
Yeah. And how could rentals help if you had some cash flow?
Yes, that's right.
It only amplifies who you already are, right?
That's right. Joe, I appreciate you being on the show today. Any
Thanks
last thoughts you'd like to leave with the audience?
I think we covered it all. Get that free game plan. See where you're at.
How do they find you?
I'm all over social. Joe Black Realtor. Also, I'm at Keller Williams, Salt Lake City. Google that. Google Joe Black Realtor. I'll pop up.
One thing I'd like to see too is respectfully disagreeing. Typically, if you don't listen or do what I say, it's basically like there's the highway. You can't have a civil discussion because I get it. There's points that need to be made from both sides, but at the end of the day, you got to do what's best for the majority, not the minority.
Yeah.
And I did like how you said, if you're on the sidelines, make sure you vote, but be informed. And what I mean by be informed, don't listen to the media. Go do your own research.
Yeah.
Don't listen to your neighbor about why he's voting for somebody or another. Don't, people say don't bring up two things at a family dinner, politics, right? You don't bring that up, but don't be informed. You do what your heart tells you, your intuition tells you, what the universe is telling you, what God is telling you, but do your own research. So my hope for this show today is that everybody shares this, and because they need to know who Trent Staggs is even more than they already know. But what are the last thoughts you'd like to tell our audience, and we'll wrap this up?
Yeah, boy. Well, I think what we need more than anything today is people that have had courage. They've demonstrated moral courage and conviction to stand up against the establishment, because that's been our problem in this country for the last several decades. We've elected, like Tucker Carlson said, a ship of fools. We've had a ship of fools leading for far too long. These folks that care more about their own power, maintaining that power, than really what's in the Constitution and really representing people. So have the people that we elect, I think they need to have that record of standing up. And I've done that as a mayor, where I said no to COVID lockdowns and mandates. I was one of the few in the state that did that. I've fought back against high density housing. I've fought back against inappropriate materials in school. Time and time again, I've stood up. I've actually cut property taxes and cut taxes. We need people that have demonstrated that. And then I've demonstrated in the way in which I've run my campaign, being the only one willing to challenge Mitt Romney.
You didn't buy your way onto the ballot.
Didn't
Huge.
buy my way on the ballot. I'm working with grassroots and delegates, and just, I'm an everyday Utahn. I've had my share of ups and downs. I don't have millions and millions of dollars that I can plug into my own campaign like some of these others, and millions of dollars in lobbyist donations and PAC, big political action committees coming in playing. If you want an everyday Utahn and somebody that's going to truly represent you, then I'm that person, and I'd ask you for your vote on June 25th. That's the primary, and here in the state of Utah, that primary is really the election, because the general election, we don't have competitive general races with Democrats. We're going to win statewide by probably 10, 15 points. So we need the Republican will in a general election. So this is it. We've got to have people. You're going to have a ballot in the mail. If you've not been registered to vote, they can do it at vote.utah.gov. Get on there. Register to be, if you're not registered as a Republican, you need to be a registered Republican to vote in this primary.
I feel for agents, for anyone starting a business, when they're in a really tight spot and they're trying to pay the bills.
Yeah.
Right. And it's so hard in that situation to try and do what's best for the client. When you know I've got to pay the bill, but does this client, do they need it? Whatever, right? There's that conflict. I'm a big believer in karma.
Absolutely.
The karma, if you do good and if you do people right, it comes back tenfold.
You can put your
head on your pillow at night, knowing you did the right thing, and it will come back.
Absolutely.
You may not, that client may be on the best product in that area for them. Say, listen, I can't help you today, but if you have any friends, family, or loved ones I can help, guess what? The phone rings the next day.
Yep. So I would say it's nice. One of the great things is being in a position where we can just genuinely help people, advise people, just be a resource to people around us, and help them, however we can. That the ability to be a resource and be of use to the people around us. As far as where we're going in the future, just keep continuing to grow.
Yeah.
I mean, it's inevitable. I probably have some things to learn from you, Ty. You've grown a nice little business yourself. And so
keep going, man.
There are definitely challenges ahead as you grow. But just helping people we can, helping the people that we interact with. We've been really blessed to have great people around us and to interact with great people.
So the guy comes from the back of the truck, basically gets really serious with you, and then you're like, okay, I'm going to
puts a pistol to my head, threatened me that if I didn't get out and cooperate, then that he was going to kill me. So at that point, I'm like, okay. Sí me bajó. I was like, espérense.
How old were you?
I was 21. I was very blonde, long hair, what they would call like a güera, And so, I don't know, one time somebody said like basically a novelty to kidnap. What's going to pull out a dad's heartstrings more than having their daughter taken at age 21, or a son? Obviously it would pull at your heartstrings, but I don't know what they wanted, honestly, because again, the crime's never been solved. I just remember that the other guy came up and jabbed a machine gun into my right rib cage. I can still feel the flinch. I actually had a bruise here on my right rib cage for a little while. It lingered because they were pretty forceful. Put me into the back of the truck, and I heard the engine start. And in that moment, it was like, like you just don't.
Is this real?
You don't you don't think on a normal, clear human level at that point when you're under terror. It's different than being afraid.
Yeah.
Where we've all felt fear, we've all felt afraid. Terror is different. It's usually a fear you feel when your life is no longer in your hands. In a small perspective, it's like going out of that terrible roller coaster. You're strapped down and you have no control over what's going to happen next. Even if you did choose to get on the roller coaster, but I compare roller coasters because I hate roller coasters.
Sure.
But I hate roller coasters ever since I was taken against my will.
Yeah.
I don't like that feeling of being strapped down and now I have no say.
I didn't do it on my own. There's a lot of people out there that have helped me and pushed me and kind of took me under their wing in order to help me succeed in this business, because it is a very, the first couple of years are always the hardest, and it takes a toll on you, but there's a lot of people that I have a lot of gratitude for that have helped me to get to where I'm at.
They were in your corner.
Yeah.
They were your champions.
Oh, for sure. 100%.
That you can do this. You got this.
Yeah. And there's, family, friends, tons of people. The support system that I have, I'm so grateful for, just through all of it. The cancer, the business, everybody has always been super on my side, which I appreciate.
Today, I would like to oh my gosh. Today, you got me all frustrated. So today, it's the mentorship. It's not necessarily about the money. I think it's just taking somebody that is new or never been in the industry from zero to this. It's rewarding. And I relate that to back in the day when I was actually selling policies. Somebody told me long ago, if you don't get a high off of making that sell, you're in the wrong industry. And when I stopped selling day to day, the high wasn't the same. And so, but I get my high off of helping that brand new agent. Yeah. And that's those phone calls and seeing them, hey, just called me and just made their first sell. And now they're celebrating. They're doing this and this and this and this, all those things, all those achievements. Because my mentor said, I want you to have whatever you want. You want the sports car, the RV, the house, all these things. It's there for the taking. You just got to go out and get it. Yeah. And I think that's where a lot of people, agents, and I'm like, I want you to have all those things. The sky's the limit. I'm not like, you can't have those. Please have them. I want you to have them. I want you, when agents get in a rut, go buy a car, go do this. Do something to try and motivate you, because as you know, when that 8-year mark hits with an agent, they start to decline in production because they're fat and happy. Yep. And I'm happy for them.
Absolutely. You got to celebrate the success, but we have also realized that you have to change the why.
Yes.
And we talk to the agents a lot of the time about what's your why. And if there's not a why, they're not going to work.
Correct.
You can lead, right? You can push them, and sometimes we've learned that we want it more than they do.
It's hard.
It's hard. And until there's a why, they're not going to do anything. Mm-hmm. But the ones that have the stronger whys absolutely are the ones that their drive is stronger.
Why is so important.
It's a big one.
You're talking, what is that why? What drives you? What gets you out of bed? And sometimes it's, I just need to make a car payment this month. Mm-hmm. Or, hey, now I've made the car payment. Well, maybe I can get my mortgage payment covered, mm-hmm. right? And it's just those stepping stones. And before you know it, they strung enough days together mm-hmm. that they win. And
it is awesome to see that.
Yes.
We have seen some of our agents that, you have too. Their lives have absolutely changed.
Transformed.
180
mentally,
degrees.
physically,
yes.
spiritually, financially.
In every sense. Absolutely.
And oftentimes what I find is when we have a fear or we're not doing something right, every fear in the world when it comes to our accountability and our action comes back to that we're afraid of what other people will think of us.
Yeah.
Every time. And, once you start breaking it down and you start to recognize that in your life, it's a little bit easier to let it go because truthfully, it's stupid.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's the dumbest thing to hold us back. Why would I not go out and be successful for my family because I'm worried about being too successful because Joe down the street might think I'm a prick or something.
No, you're right. You're right.
And so it's like just being able to identify when that shows up so that we can start to look it in the face and say, okay, this is dumb. And I'm now going to step past it instead of just continually letting it beat us.
Yeah. Those opinions I look at, or they do the comparison, right?
Right.
Or the other thing too, is they want to circumvent the process.
Yes.
And you have to go through the process. And I was listening, one last story I'll tell is I listened to a guy that he sold his business for $2 billion, but it ruined his life because it was the process of him succeeding and getting to that point. But then after that, he started drinking, just went down a spiral, and it took him a long way to recover.
Purpose,
yeah, that's right. So and your purpose may change, right?
Right. Absolutely. Right.
You may have an immediate purpose today, and then it changes.
Right. Well, and I think too, we get caught up in the idea that I have to have this huge purpose or, and it may not be that. And also having the grace that we're going to grow and change. Our life purpose is also going to grow and change. Mm-hmm. It's not something that's written on a headstone. So giving ourselves the freedom and the liberty to be able to move and flow with that is imperative.
It's like the stepping stones. You have a bar studio. You started doing retreats, you started doing coaching, and now you're like, okay, I really, really like this. Yeah. And you hear that story if you've never worked a day in your life when you find that purpose and that passion.
Yeah.
Wow. If anybody's hearing this, let people do what they're good at.
They do.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And and the thing that I like about Google or anything you've done, you can measure the results. You can see the results. You get weekly reports of what the traffic is. You get weekly reports on who's clicking on your ad. So you can measure that, and then you're like, okay, well, what's not working? I'm getting impressions and I'm getting clicks, but they're not going all the way through the process.
Yeah.
You and I've talked about, Ty, you got to do a little video.
Mm-hmm.
Get
mm-hmm.
people that I'm a legitimate person and the misconceptions that are out there so that they click, so then I can contact them.
Yeah.
Or call me, get engagement, get them to get back.
Yeah. Yep.
Any last things you'd like to leave with the audience there, Josh?
So no, I would say the biggest thing is if you really want to try something on Google, I think if you'll go with like a $2,000 budget, right? Like I said, I had to pay for that first
credit card,
right? But just try it, right? And the thing is put in a good plan, right? You can YouTube stuff, you can learn so much stuff online, and then if that doesn't work, start looking at other options, But I would say the biggest thing is know that you're going to spend a little bit of money, you're going to spend a whole lot of time, and it's going to be a little frustrating. But like we've talked about, I got to where I am, you've got to where you are because you just worked harder. You didn't take that first email or that first person telling you no, right? And that's kind of how you have to look at this. Is you're going to have to go in there, you're going to have to set it up and try things out, and sometimes they're going to work, sometimes they're not. And if it doesn't, try harder. Do it again. Change a few things, put it back up. Yeah. Right. And
eventually you're going to crack that code, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then once you've done it for a long time and you spent money, you'll see, like, I feel like Google, once they realize that you know what you're doing and people like
what's on your website or what you're selling or what you're doing, they'll let it stay.
Yeah. I don't want to hear somebody go in there and say, well, they're on the right Medicare Advantage plan, I couldn't help them. I'm like, are you kidding me? You didn't help them as an agent. You did not fill all of their gaps. You need to talk to them about cancer, heart attack, stroke. You need to talk to them about hospital indemnity. These are all gaps that you can fill and better cover them. You know, as an insurance agent, the more policies you get in the house, the longer that policy holder stays on the books. But guess what? Not only that, you make more money. It's not about money, but you make more money. That's the reality. But at the end of the day, you're helping them better. I would rather have a phone call where somebody calls me up and says, Ty, I just got admitted to the hospital. What do I need to do? Hey, don't worry about it. Let's get a claim form sit in. You're going to have a check coming. How many days we're in the hospital? You know, you have a policy that's $300 a day. You were there for 5 days. You're going to have a check for $1,500 coming in the bank or coming to you and they're like, okay, great. Or would I rather have a phone call? Well, you know what? That sucks. You know, I'm sorry to hear that, but you're going to have to pay those co-pays because that's what we talked about on your plan. Which agent do you want to be? Do you want to be number one or do you want to be number two? I'd rather be number one and not number two because, I mean, in the last little while, believe it or not, I've had people call me up and say, hey, Ty, can I get on that cancer plan you talked to me about 4 or 5 years ago? Because they didn't want to spend it. They didn't think they were going to have cancer. They didn't think they were going to get to the hospital. I'm like, well, it's too late. You have to have those policies in effect before you get diagnosed with cancer, not after. And they're like, oh, I figured as much. But I do not like having those conversations. I'd rather have the conversation of the first lady I ever sold a policy to. It was a $50,000 lump sum cancer. She made the payment in November. She was diagnosed with cancer in January. It was, luckily they caught it early. And the conversation I had with her is I said, do you have anybody in your family that's had cancer? And she's like, well, yeah, I had my cousin had, you know, this type of cancer, colon cancer. And my nephew had cancer in his eye. And my mom had breast cancer. And I said, is that a concern to you? And she's like, yes. I said, well, I can cover you for a $50,000 lump sum cancer policy for, back in the day, it was probably $50 a month. She made 2 payments on that policy and they wrote her a check for 50 grand. It allowed her to go back to do an experimental surgery at the source of the cancer because she had breast cancer, and it cost her $28,000 cash because they didn't accept insurance and it was experimental. And then she was able to remodel her house with the rest of the money. That is power.
Therefore, it comes down to the same thing with the, let's say, the carpet, tile and grout and upholstery cleaning thing. It is an additional service that is necessary in people's homes. Cleaning correctly is necessary because when people go in and they actually misuse products and processes and procedures that are necessary to get the job done correctly,
be harmful.
They are very harmful when it comes down to chemical aspect, chemical residue left behind, and or sometimes misusing the chemicals can make it a breeding and a thriving ground for bacteria, mold, and fungus that can be very harmful long-term on your whole entire family and your pets. And who wants that? People think it's a quick, cheap, and go job when there's actually more to it than what meets the eye. A lot of service company, which I called them the predatory service kings in my niche, had fed people a line of so many things that people don't know what to believe anymore when it comes down to this. That's why I tell people, listen, let me come into your home and I'm going to give you a price because I'm going to set a standard to what I'm going to charge you for. And if you don't absolutely love, not just like, totally above and beyond and love the product that I'm going to deliver to you at the end, you can have my services absolutely free. But then if you did like them and you did love them and you paid me my price, I'm going to give you a 3-month workmanship warranty that is going to make that work stand up to that price that you paid me for the services that I guaranteed you that I'll do.
Yeah.
And I'll do it for any and every single person. And a lot of people will be like, wow, that's hell of a guarantee.
Mm-hmm.
Is it true? 6% of people think it's a bluff or it's a fluff, and the rest opt in.
You know why? You have the confidence.
Yeah.
You know your product, you know your processes, you know you're valuable. You know, as an entrepreneur, I think a lot of entrepreneurs, they know their worth, right? And you've learned that over time, right? You've learned it, you own it, and you want to do it more.
grew up in Nebraska, obviously, grew up on a farm. And I think that's where I got my entrepreneurial, spirit. I think the farmer is the ultimate entrepreneur. They rely on the good Lord and our weather and stuff. And so they got a lot of risks that they take. And as you know, that's kind of what we do as owners of a company is we manage risk, regardless of, at the end of the day, all the other pieces that become part of that, it's really managing the risk. And so, decided to move out to Utah. My brother moved out here and I come out to join him. And I always wanted to get into the technology, side of the world. I went to technology school, got a BA in electronics when I got out of high school. And so that was kind of my gig, right? I wanted to find something that was up and coming that allowed me to use my skill set and education. And so I wanted to get into the telephone company. And funny enough, at that time, the way you got in was through, you became a janitor, and then you worked your way up into the system. And so that really wasn't something that I was interested in. I think everybody, once you get an education, kind of feel like that's a step down. But the reality of it is I was able to find an opportunity out in Utah with an independent telephone company, and they were not part of the Bell system. And so we, signed up with them and got a chance to travel a little bit with them. It was amazing, the growth that was going on in the industry at that time. I tell everybody, at that time it was kind of the little guy named Bill Gates, starting out, and so technology was a big thing back.
Yep. You gotta love the country we live in. It's about opportunity, and there has to be more people coming into the market because it's the good old boys club, or the people at the top are continuing. Someone's got to break through it, right? And now AT&T said no. And they're like, wait a minute, we're
me in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
That's
Verizon's next. We're just waiting on Verizon.
Yep. And, you bang enough doors, you start moving and shaking. I've seen it in my industry. Things start happening.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's right now it's great, right? 60% of the market's covered by AT&T, T-Mobile. Yeah. So and that's the part, we're making an impact. The goal is to make an impact on their life, and that's really the whole focus of this. Stretch the dollar, get them the savings, and just utilize the money so that you can spend it on other core expenses that you have.
Absolutely. I can tell the passion, and it comes through. Any other stories you'd like to leave with our audience, or any thoughts?
Honestly, the big part is, at a minimum, we just go do a bill comparison with us. See if you can save some money.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the number one thing. And if it's not, we're very upfront. If we're not going to save you money, don't switch with us, right? And you'll see that.
Why would you? I mean, it's like, you don't want to, you're saying you want to help you save. And I mean, again, it makes sense.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Most people, I would say about 80% of the people that come through and do bill comparison, they're going to save money. They're going to save something with us.
So you started with businesses, but an individual can do it, right? They can.
So as long as they're coming through the corporation, yeah. So as any of your brokers, any of your independents, they can come through. But that's the part we want to exercise something for, obviously, the entrepreneurs, right? The people that are building, right? And they're trying to get their business going. They're trying to get this. They're trying to move it. That's who we want to help out.
Dude, that's a struggle with like insurance, group insurance. Like you get these group products for insurance side, and they're very lucrative, but you can't get them on an individual basis.
Exactly.
You have to go through the big. I mean, insurance is about offsetting risk. I mean, that's what it is. Yeah. It's about offsetting risk. So the more people you have on the plan, the more they can offset and spread that risk. But they're group plans that aren't offered as an individual plan.
Yeah.
So, but through this, they would have access.
They'd be able to have access. Yeah. Okay. Exactly.
That's great.
So
because we help people financially.
Oh.
Their mental part of their health, their spiritual part of their health. I mean, every area you have to be able to teach them and let them embrace the things that they're looking for. Mental health. I mean, I've been doing this for 25 years. In the last 5 to 6 years, it was
exploded.
We all lived into, I want to lose weight, I want to lose weight, I want to lose weight. This now is all mental. Physical. I mean, physical has taken a back seat to stress, anxiety, and depression. And what's the answer for that in society? It's a pill. Yeah, it's a pill. And it's interesting because our bodies function that when you take a pill and suddenly it makes you feel better, and all of a sudden all that stress and anxiety went away, then you want more of the pill because it exerts dopamine Okay.
You still got the stress and anxiety. It's just
And it's
suppressed.
but then you take more.
Yeah.
And that's how all of this addiction starts. Whether it's alcohol, whether it's pills, whatever it is. It could be, high level energy drinks.
Yeah.
It could be eating. It can be all kinds of things, because we're releasing the dopamine and we're not understanding how to have the serotonin come out instead of the dopamine. And so we teach people, and that probably sounds like blah 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 to a lot of people.
Well, I was going to ask you, how would somebody get started with the program?
So they come online. They can come online. They can come through an insurance broker.
Okay.
They can go online to Own My Health, and you can come on as a corporation, or you can come on as an individual.
Okay.
Okay. And they're identical. The programs are identical. We just go out and meet with masses of people when we go inside of companies.
Sure.
So we're doing those kinds of things, but the individual gets all the same attention and all the same, effects. Go in and you sign up. You can pay for it monthly, quarterly, or yearly, however you would like to do it. And then now you get started.
But what's a day like when you're out? I mean, what does a constable do, and then what does that day look like?
Sure. And I always like to joke about constables are kind of the best kept secret of law enforcement, at least in Utah, because a lot of people have never dealt with a constable. So every month we get roughly 3,000 new papers. Some of those are for eviction, some are for divorce, some of those are protective orders, stalking injunctions, just a wide variety of stuff, including just simple small claims affidavits. And so an average day, all of our deputies, they check in at night, they get all their new stuff for the next day, they sort it, they organize it, and the next day they may be seizing vehicles. We seized a Corvette yesterday.
Wow.
We did multiple evictions yesterday. And then we're just serving simple garnishments. Somebody owes the tax commission some money, and so the tax commission will garnish their wages or their bank account. Every day is a little bit different, which is nice. Most of my deputies are out in the field working. I tend to be in the office about 50% of the time, then in the field 50% of the time. But that's kind of an average day, serving a bunch of court papers, seizing property, evicting people. Sometimes we have to seize kids from one parent to give to another parent per court order.
Oh, my.
So every day's a little different.
I had no idea. The more I talk to you, the more interested I'm in finding out more about what you do. What would you say the positive thing of your industry is, and then maybe a negative or a story you had? But I mean, it's definitely, so attorneys hire you? Is that mostly attorneys hire you, or I could come to you if I needed to, I don't know why I'd serve papers?
Yeah, so we have government contracts, we have private law firm contracts, and then private individuals hire us as well. So there's a wide variety of who we work for, and we're happy to work for anybody that needs us to do their work. And I've forgotten your question. So what was your question?
Well, so that was great. What I was saying is, what's a positive thing?
Okay.
Yeah, and then maybe some stories that. Yeah.
There's positives for the people that we're serving them, obviously. I mean, you may have a landlord that has a tenant that's done $10,000 worth of damage in their house.
Yeah.
They haven't paid rent, and so they hire us to do an eviction, or their attorney. So for them, that's a really positive event for us to get that bad tenant out. But sometimes it's divorce papers. Sometimes you'll serve a spouse and they will cry and they're upset. Other times they're like, thank you. I've been waiting for this. I'm so glad you came. So everything's a little bit different. So I always joke that nobody really likes us, but when I'm out serving, I'm this friendly to people. They're already in a bad situation. They're already having a bad day. There's no need for me to make it any worse. And so I try to be friendly. I try to be polite until I can't. Sometimes you've got to escalate a little bit and then de-escalate them and help them realize, hey, you've got some options. You can just leave on your own, or you might have to leave in handcuffs. What do you prefer?
Social media can be rewarding the same way. I mean, the thing that I loved about insurance at the beginning and why I loved selling insurance was the residuals, right?
Yeah.
It can be, you can compound the work that you've done. Mm-hmm. Similar in social media, I like to look at it almost like digital real estate, right? Because if you go onto YouTube and you search for something, say how to run TikTok ads, and you're ranking, 1 through 5 in one of those, that's like a digital real estate that you own.
It's there forever.
Yeah, and it could be like, it could get outranked, but like it could be there for a long time. And that has the opportunity to make you, to duplicate yourself and to make you little money machines, right? Like, so every video that I create, I like to look at it like a little piece of digital real estate that I'm creating and duplicating a part of myself. And I think there's something really powerful about that. And same with insurance, where you can go through and just compound and get those residuals coming through. I think finding any kind of career path that has that opportunity is very beneficial.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then, I mean, it's, for me, I may be the face, but it's not just me. I've got a great team behind me that helps me do all this stuff, because I couldn't do it. I mean, I couldn't sit down, and I've got to do other stuff, but I have a great team behind me. They're wonderful at what they do, and we keep changing and massaging where we're at. But what a journey it's been.
Yeah, I totally can empathize with the mindset. Absolutely. The old saying is ignorant is bliss sometimes.
Yeah.
But again, I come back to the point that medicine has advanced a lot in the past few decades, and it continues to advance every single day. We have effective treatment for a lot of conditions that we used to not able to treat effectively. We have a lot of screening tools that we can screen for disease very effectively that we didn't have in the past. And so if this thing play into the advantage of the patient, and there is more than ever right now, I think there's more incentive to be proactive about your healthcare. I think you would get a lot more benefit if you are being more proactive in terms of taking care of your health and getting all this thing done. Because again, we have good, effective treatment, and a lot of this thing, I come back to the fact that a lot of the things that we do are evidence-based and they do make a difference in your health moving forward 10, 20, 30 years from now.
If you're willing to put the time and effort in, and you can make a really good living in the insurance industry if you're willing to do it right and you're willing to put the time and effort in. You're patient and you have those hardworking skills. You can make a really good living if you're willing just to put that time and effort in. The cool thing about an insurance industry is you kind of get a little bit of everything, and I guess that's kind of the same with any self-employed job. Is insurance, you're starting off first as a salesman.
Yeah.
Because you don't have anything underneath. You don't have anybody to manage. You don't have all those things. So you first start off as a salesman. And as you then start to build up your clientele, now you need customer service, right? So then you might hire your first customer service person. So now you become a manager and a hire, right? And then as that builds up and you say, well, now I need maybe a couple salespeople underneath you. So then you start to build up a sales team. And you kind of go through the whole thing of becoming, sales, customer service, manager, marketer, all those things. And hopefully you want to have the hat of business owner, and you have those things there. So it's a great kind of a little microcosm of you kind of learn all those hats. And then as you learn all those hats and you kind of become good at those things, obviously you don't want to wear those hats for too long because then you're doing too much.
Yeah.
But if you can juggle those for good, if you can juggle those for a time being, and if you could kind of really, and with insurance, you got to believe in yourself. You've got to believe in yourself that you can do it.
Probably the number one thing I get asked to help out with are some billing issues. And it, for these people that are living paycheck to paycheck, and their Social Security benefit is so minuscule on so many of these, right? So when they get a bill that's more than their monthly income, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
And so for me to be able to help them resolve that and call the right people, and it usually is something simple. Somebody didn't do their job, didn't bill the right thing, or maybe the client didn't give them both the Medicare and Medicaid card.
Yeah.
So there was some confusion there. So just helping them through those things, that's probably the most common thing. It wouldn't be like the biggest. I mean, I've definitely, we've landed some home runs and saved some people from some big bills in that way. But, it's kind of like, I think of it as a lot of being like Mr. Incredible in the movie, where he's sitting in some back cubicle and the little old lady comes and, I did not tell you to do this. And, and solves their issue, within the realms of what he can do. And so
you must have kids, because I use Lion King and Disney analogies a lot, right? There's a lot to be learned from those cartoon movies. Any last thoughts before we wrap up here you'd like to tell our audience, Eric, that comes to mind, whether it be in business, whether it be helping people, or all the above?
The insurance industry as a whole, what I love about it is, so in landscaping, I used to just always be working myself out of a job, and I had great clients, great relationships, but as soon as I got done, I've got to go find another job. with the insurance thing, it's so much more. You know, you got the money stream, you got you know, that mailbox money that comes in, and the referrals still come just the same as they did with landscaping. You know, you still help one person out, and they refer their friend and their neighbor, and so yeah, that part of it is wonderful. If I could tell my kids, hey, look at an industry that's gonna have some residual income to it, you know, I wish I would have known that.
She was big on, number one, you got to introduce yourself, you got to be confident, and you got to, you know, do a lot of stuff. I think that's what kind of makes you successful, as well as myself. Just growing up with that kind of work ethic, that kind of determination. That, I mean, I remember I'm a 15-year-old kid, right? And Santa Claus cancels at the school's Christmas party. So she goes and gets me a suit and has me do it.
She did?
Yeah.
That's total mom.
I'm like 14 years old, and I'm out here. I'm doing a Santa Claus gig, you know, for these teachers for the high school. Wow. At some restaurant. It was fun. I didn't complain, but you know, I don't do it now.
No,
it's not a career.
You can grow you a big old beard, right?
But just, I mean, whatever we needed, right?
Yeah.
Learn to do with it or do without, and we learned a lot of things.
Yeah.
From both our parents, you know, dad and mom both, because she was certainly she thought out of the box and was creative and had all these avenues and venues. And then my dad was just, I mean, our dad was just, I mean, touch how to work.
Consistent. Dad was the hardest working man.
And gave you opportunities to work, right?
Yeah. The hardest working man I've known. I remember when I went to the Netherlands, a lot of people may not know this, when I was a foreign exchange student, he got that second job at Domino's to pay for it.
Uh-huh.
And then he did a career at Domino's for over 20 years.
Like 30.
Was it 30?
Yeah.
But, I mean, everybody loved him. In fact, a lot of people in
I think he started right after we built the house. So 55 to 82, 27 years.
Yeah, and he got an award for being a million-miler driver.
Yeah.
I mean, he drove a ton, but he enjoyed it. But as long as I can remember, he worked 2 jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it was a side job.
Oh, yeah.
Or a porch deal. I don't know.
Finishing basements.
Yeah, I remember.
Redoing bathrooms.
Did decks. Yeah, he was like anything.
Anything you need to do.
I know what this industry offers. I know what other industries offer as well, and there's good platforms for a lot of people. But you've got to recruit and always recruit, because the day that you stop recruiting is the day your agency starts moving backwards or your business starts moving backwards. And the best money you can spend is on recruiting and telling people about the opportunity that you have. So as you are on other people's stages and you're telling your story, you're providing a service and training, you can get people to know who you are and what you do. Get on other people's podcast shows. Podcast shows, there's millions of them out there. I get people hitting me up all the time that want to be on my show. I've interviewed successful entrepreneurs that have written books, successful entrepreneurs that have sold businesses. I've interviewed people that have been abducted by the cartel. I've interviewed mortgage guys. I've interviewed PNC guys. And I'm telling you, all of them have phenomenal stories about the rise and fall, how they were able to grow their agency or why they're in their industry. And that common factor draws a lot of people. These are inspiring stories that help people day to day. You know, knowing that everybody has hard times, everybody has trauma, everybody's trying to make a paycheck, everybody's trying to make a living, all of those things. Recruiting is such a powerful way to get to know somebody. And then another way is anytime I go to lunch, I try to invite somebody with me. If I'm going to go golfing, invite somebody with me. Invite. And don't make it a big, huge presentation. It doesn't need to be. If somebody's coming to a lunch and learn, they know they're going to get a pitch, right? They know that I'm buying them lunch. They know they're going to get a pitch about why they may need to come in my industry. And my wife is my #1 fan, and she is my biggest recruiter. She's like, Ty, you need to talk to so-and-so. You need to talk to so-and-so. And here's typically how she does it, is she's having a conversation with somebody about how they're doing or what's coming up next. Or, for instance, she was talking to a lady last night after we went on our little walk for the day, and she asked how the business was going. And then she came back and said that she's like, well, how's your business doing? Ty's doing great. The business is growing. And she starts talking about her 25-year-old son looking for a job. What does she say? Hey, if your son's looking for a job, he's 25 years old, he should talk to Ty, right? And that's how it starts. It wasn't a big old long pitch. She's like, well, what does Ty do again? Tells a little bit about, we're in the insurance industry. We're looking for agents that want to help people aging into Medicare. And if her son's interested, we'd love to sit down and have a chat. That is how it all starts.
I started in contracting, but kind of created the position that I'm in now just based off of what I was seeing agents needing.
Mm-hmm.
And so we took a CRM platform and then really developed it. It's the bones of it is called Radius, Bob, but we have totally customized this platform so that agents can utilize it for their businesses, because there's a lot of really great CRMs out there, absolutely. But where we are such a specific field, it was important for us to have specific things in there that an agent can use to grow their business.
Mm-hmm.
And so having that background in insurance, I'm licensed, so that helps too. So I can kind of understand. I mean, my book is super small, but I've sat across a kitchen table from clients, and so I can kind of understand what an agent is needing when they are meeting with their clients, and that follow-up that happens before and after.
Yeah. The other thing I would say is compliance, meaning the insurance is a highly regulated field, right? Yes. And understanding the ways we can communicate and how to communicate and disclaimers is crucial.
Oh yeah, it's super key. And that's why it really helps to have like me and Heidi and all of these people in this back end office to help with that.
Yeah.
Because like I said, there are a lot of great CRMs, but if you don't have that component to it, it makes it difficult because you really do have to check yourself on all that compliance. Whereas with what we're doing and the templates that we're building, we're running those through compliance already. So when agents utilize this platform, they're good to go.
Yeah.
So it makes it a lot easier. It's kind of just one packaged deal.
So why now? The next question is: so we have a CRM tool. It's called Agent Corp. I know agents are going to ask, what is the cost?
So the cost is $30 a month.
Yeah.
It includes a lot of different things. If you're looking at features, you can do your voice phone calls through that platform, and those are recorded.
Mm-hmm.
You can even do video conferencing similar to what you see with Zoom.
Okay.
If you don't want to have the video portion of it, you can do just a basic screen share. You can store files on there. So like your SOAs, or if you are doing ACA, you can have those stored in there too. And then if you look, you're talking about data.
Yeah.
If you look at the amount of storage that you're going to need to save call recordings for 10 years, video recordings for 10 years, SOAs for 10 years, that's a lot of information and a lot of storage. So to be able to plug that into a platform that's cloud-based and you can access it wherever you are, I mean, that's huge. Because I've had several agents say, well, I've just been storing them on my computer and I need to buy more space. Why?
Yeah. And you get DJs mostly at night, right?
Always.
I mean,
you're almost always.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you ever get a day gig? I guess maybe a wedding, right? But that's still night.
Yeah. Okay. For instance, like last weekend, Memorial weekend obviously was a little crazy, but just to kind of tell you like what my weekends consist of on something. Most of my weekends are like this. They're just tapered down a little bit. But last weekend, I wake up, feed the kids, get them ready for school, drop off at 2 schools, come back, load up all my DJ gear. I had a wedding I had to be to by 10:30 a.m. up at Red Butte.
Wow.
Go up there. I'm up there until 2:30. Get a phone call. Yancey, can we borrow some of your gear for the show that we're doing tonight? I'm like, that's fine. Good timing.
Yeah.
I've already got it like all
Loaded
with
up.
me. Load it up, take it down to them, go home, take a nap for an hour, have to DJ in Wendover that night. So go home, take a nap, wake up, download some music, put some stuff together, eat dinner, head out to Wendover. We start music around 9:30 p.m.
And you got to set up. This is all your own gear, right? Or they have
so
gear?
in Wendover, everything is there. Like,
Oh.
All we're taking is basically like our mix. So controller or, you know, mixer and CDJs. That's what we play on now. It's basically digital vinyl.
Okay.
So we'll take that, you know, sound check, get all the lights on.
And I think that's one of the things that I learned recently is going out to North Carolina and working with all of these agents this last weekend. Sometimes as a manager, we get too far away from it.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know, that was one of the things that Costco CEO, he's always been a part of the business and understand what people go through. And I think sometimes we have to check that a little bit, because the more money you make, all of a sudden you get further and further away from the front line.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I've realized, that I need to be on the front line a little bit more and see what they're going through, see the struggles, because it's a little bit different now than it was in 2020 when we had COVID, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then before that, it was different. And then in 2013, it was different. That's when I started in this. So it changes. And so if we're not, like, as a leader, willing to change with it, we become dinosaurs and we're not given the right information. And I kind of was like, oh, there's some things I need to pick up on, and just being in the market and listening to the agent managers from United Healthcare, they were giving me tidbits on, hey, focus on this next year. I was like, great. But if you're not out there, you're not going to get those nuggets.
You know, I would say inspiring stories to me is somebody living their passion and somebody taking risks and being rewarded for those risks. And when I say risks, you know, sometimes changing a career path can be difficult or hard, or sometimes creating the life that you want is a risk and challenging. And you know, I love effort. And I feel like too often in today's world, people want to be a victim. They don't want to take control. They don't want to take responsibility. And, you know, the more responsibility and integrity with which you can live your life, the happier that life is going to be for somebody.
Wow. Did you grow up saying I want to be a pilot? I mean, how did you?
I actually never said that when I was growing up. I always thought I would be like an engineer or something.
Okay.
But my mom was the first woman pilot south of Provo in Utah.
Wow.
And she took lessons. It was kind of sneaky. My dad was an accountant and he did the books for the airport.
Oh.
For the two guys that ran this little fixed base operator, right?
Okay.
So my mom sneaks out and gets lessons from these guys and doesn't tell my dad.
Wow.
I think my dad had always wanted to fly, but he just, you know, business, too much time, money.
Yeah, as an accountant, you got.
But my mom never let anything like money stop her.
Okay.
So she just like went out and took these lessons. So one morning after, you know, like a month or so, she says to my dad, you going out to the airport today? He goes, well, no, I don't have any business out there today. She goes, well, I'm going out. He goes, well, what are you going out for? She says, well, I'm going to solo today. He goes, you're going to what?
Had no idea.
He had clueless. Those two boys at the airport just kept their lips zipped.
Wow.
I think she, you know, put some fear into him, like pain of death, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we go out there and we're at 5,000 feet in Utah.
Mm-hmm.
The air's a little thin at 5,000 feet. So you usually have like a bigger, more powerful airplane. No, these guys are teaching in this little old teeny airplane called a Cessna 140. It's the smallest Cessna they make. It's only got 2 seats in it, and the engine is positively gutless. And to top it all off, she's getting taught how to fly in a tail dragger.
Okay.
So tail draggers are really challenging.
Yeah.
Because the tail tends to want to come around in the front sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So she goes out and she takes off with the instructor, and they do a few touch and goes, and then he gets out on the airport. That's a tradition. And then he walks in and she takes off and does her first solo, right? So she comes around for the first landing. She bounced that sucker at least 20 or 30 feet in the air. She hit so hard, bounced up in the air. And my dad, I looked at him, and I've never seen him really white and scared before, but I think he figured she was gone.
She wasn't going to go back. She wasn't going back.
And
yeah.
So she goes around and she actually made a couple more landings and then taxied in, and then the next ones were good. But that was just one of the funniest incidents in my life. I'd always built model airplanes.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I had model airplanes hanging from my ceiling.
Yeah, I see a couple of them there that you brought. Yeah.
Like 5 years old, I had every kind of model airplane.
And the goal was, hey, at that time,
I didn't know about insurance. I had no idea. All I knew was I went to school, I got this job, I worked my way up. I was able to build these houses, the American dream. Everybody wants these houses. And that was the lifelong pursuit. I built my first house, my second house, my third house. And the idea is every 2 years I was going to build a house. So by year 10, my house was free and clear. And I'm making $200,000 a year. I'd be set. I got nothing to worry about, right? Well, let me tell you, 2008 happened. And you guys all know what happened in 2008. The market went in a tailspin. And the week before Thanksgiving, I was given my last paycheck. And they said, there's the door. After 9 years of service and helping, they said, there's the door. Right before Thanksgiving. I mean, I got Christmas coming up. I got 2 little kids. I just built my dream house on a golf course between the 7th and 11th hole. Again, I got it made, right? No, there was other plans. I had to figure it out. That next year, I worked 17 different jobs, from hanging Christmas lights, doing trim, an adjunct instructor at a college, doing trim drawings because I had a degree in industrial design. Anything I could do. I couldn't get a job in construction. There wasn't anything available. I reached out to all my contacts that I'd helped over the years, small businesses. Hey, do you got a job? 4 months in, after I was searching for a job, something to pay the bills, I'd lost my house. I was off on the streets. So from November to April, my house was gone. I had to move in back in with my parents. You know how devastating that is as a father, as a spouse? You have to go and say, listen, I don't know what else to do. I was doing everything I knew how to do, 17 different jobs, just trying to get back to where I was. But there was a defining moment in the hallway of my parents' house where I made a decision when my 7-year-old daughter comes to me and says, Dad, when can we move back into our old house? At that moment in time, I said, I will never let anybody control my destiny again. And as I picked up a job finally, straight commission, selling vinyl fencing or any type of fencing, I was introduced to the opportunity of insurance. And I'm grateful to this day for that gentleman. His name's Ted White, that gave me the opportunity to be in the insurance industry. For the next 5 years, it was a fight. It was sacrifice. It was scrapping, as I was a personal producer, trying to get to that next level, selling an app a day. That was the goal. Also selling vinyl fencing. I would go and do all my vinyl fencing bids as fast as I could. And knowing that if I did 20 bids a week, that I'd sell $15,000 a week, which is $1 million producer in vinyl fencing, a 6% commission was $60,000 plus a gas card. That's all I got paid. But I did that for 5 years and sold insurance on the days I had off, Saturdays, Sundays, weekends, nights, whatever I could, in between appointments, if I didn't have an appointment selling insurance. And then in 2012, I opened my agency where I could serve and give back. Again, there's 2 times in life that you'll be given an opportunity where you will be able to serve and make a lot of money. So whatever it is, and if you don't like, let's say your bills are paid right now, you're comfortable, but you're just like, you don't, the purpose isn't there. Eventually it's gonna die on the vine, or you're not gonna be happy, or there's gonna be something that's gonna change that where you're at. But if you're actively, for me, I wasn't actively looking, but I was forced to actively look. Find that purpose in what you want to be when you grow up. If it's a restaurant owner, if it's you want to go sell cars, or if you want to start your own company. I mean, there are many different ways and different things you can do, but make a commitment to yourself that you're going to do it. Find a mentor, and here's why. After every appointment, I would go and run. I would do a debrief. I would be like, what did I do wrong? And it wasn't that he was attacking me, but how can I do better? Every great athlete has a mentor. If you guys have anyone know who Tim Grover is? Tim Grover, he coached Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, and his books are phenomenal. And so when you find that mentor, jump in with both feet and do that debrief. So if you go run an appointment, say, hey, I ran into this client. Here's their situation. You know, we're in an opportunity. It's fact-finding. It's asking questions. You know, like he said, what do you do for long-term care? I didn't even know. It's asking questions. It isn't sales. It's presenting. And when I talk to a new agent on the Medicare side, I say, listen, if you get me 6 questions answered, just 6, it's this easy. The hardest part's getting in front of them. The next part's asking questions. I'll tell you where to put the business. And it works with life insurance. But people buy on emotion. They buy on emotion. And if you find that emotion or that hurt, it's no longer selling. A lead is a lead is a lead. It's a conversation. Everyone says it's a bad lead. No, it's not. I used to take leads that were in the trash that people said were no good, and I would go out and sell 50% of them. So is it the lead or is it the agent? Leads that were in the trash. Agents said, no, they're no good, Ty. I already called them. I took them and I sold them because it goes back to asking questions. It's going back to finding the need and the ability to pay. I have a huge agency, and some days it's a blessing and a curse because I used to know all of my agents intimately. I used to know their family, their friends, but I'm getting so big so fast. But I've got a great team. I've got 60 managers, and I want them to see success and then mentor other people so that they can, it's just that trickle down effect, right? Because now it's not about the money, it's about the legacy that I want to leave and the impact that I can leave. Because it'll be here long after I leave. Medicare's not going away. Insurance isn't going away. The products we sell today may not be the products we sell tomorrow, but they'll always be here. Insurance is the most recession-proof job. When everything went debacle in 07, 08, insurance was still there. It still is to this day. People need you. Go out there and kill it because you only have 1 or 2 times in your entire life where you can serve and make a lot of money. Thanks.